I am pleased to welcome the founder of Brave Starts and co-author of Age Against the Machine. We are glad to have you, the brilliant Lucy Standing. Hello, Lucy,
Wow.
to the show.
What a very generous and lovely introduction. It's incredibly kind of you to have me join you this afternoon.
Awesome. I know it's late in London right now. It's Friday. You should be enjoying yourself, but you are stuck with me for the next 20 minutes, and we are going to break everything down about ageism and how working professionals, especially people over 50, can navigate their career. So, look,
Mhm.
you've spent a decade in this space. What was the moment you realized that ageism in hiring wasn't an accident, it was a system?
It's there's no one data point, right? There's lots and lots and lots of data points. So it starts with maybe feeling it a little bit yourself and observing it yourself throughout your career. I mean, when I the very first job I did when I was, a young, naive 21-year-old was for a headhunting company in Hong Kong. And there was literally a drawer, and the drawer was labeled dinosaurs. And I said to the person who was running the company, I was like, what's in the dinosaur drawer? And I genuinely thought it might be soft rubber toys for when maybe people were coming in and having interviews to play with their kids. And no, they go, oh, that's the drawer that we put any CV in that's for somebody over the age of 40.
Wow.
So that kind of stuck with me as an initial thing. And then I had a failure. So I did a job shadowing platform, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea, and I still think it's inspired and slightly ahead of its time. But through that job shadowing platform, I found that the people who were most using the site tended to be people who were older. And they were people saying to me, this is a really, really, I don't really want to be using your service. It's just I find I can't get a job. So I am going to have to set up on my own. Therefore, I want to shadow these people that you have on your platform, hotel owners, dog walkers, typically small business owners. So I hear all of this. Oh gosh, it's much harder for them to get a job. And I remember the dinosaur story. Let's start talking to more and more people. And then, of course, you see all the comments on LinkedIn and all of the ranting and then you start looking more and more at the data and all of the studies that look at, whether or not a CV of someone in their 20s and 30s, does that get screened in more than people who are, in their 40s and 50s? And of course, all the data shows that. So the experiments have been done, the data is there. Then you start talking to companies and recruiters, and they say to you things like, oh, we don't collect age data. We don't want to appear to be ageist. And you say, well, how convenient? Because actually, without having any age data, you have no idea how many people you're screening out over a certain age. And that, in a way, it becomes the shield. Because we don't collect the data, we can't possibly be ageist. Well, actually, you are ageist. You're just not telling anyone that you are being ageist. So there was never one particular point. There's just thousands and thousands of points that all push in the same direction.
So what made you write this book about the age machine? Why are you passionate about it?
Um, well, because I see a lot of, there are two main reasons. Number one, I see a lot of garbage out there, right? I see a lot of people desperate, typically for coaching clients, because so many people retrain to be coaches and then they find the market is saturated. So, how do you get someone to buy from you when there's a market that's flooded with other coaches? It tends to be that people start to overpromise. So come with me, I will help you find a job that you're going to love. Come to my service where I'm not going to charge that much and I'll help you follow your passion and find your purpose, right? All these wonderful inspirational stories, which of course are based on no real data or evidence on how things work in reality. So I
Mhm.
see a lot of toxic messaging, I would say. So that's one side I want to fix. And then there's the other side, which is you start working with this group of people in this demographic and you start finding the problem. And I don't know about you, but I feel really motivated by solving problems,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if a job's super easy to do, what sense of achievement do you have at the end of your day, right? Not a lot. But this is a really inspirational group of people with amazing stories. And then when they send me emails going, that was a brilliant workshop and I feel inspired, I'm going to do something that's a bit different. Or you brought an employer to us last week, and I never thought about a career in social care, but actually, I really like that guy. And I like the working circumstances. And it might only be half a day a week, but I could try it. So when you see little transformations like that and little light bulb moments go on for people, and they take the time sometimes to email you. I mean, our trust pilot ratings are nearly, well, they're 4.8 out of 5 based on like 45 plus people. And those are the people who bother to write a review. There's hundreds of people we're helping that don't even do that sort of stuff. So, oh my God, all day, every day, I get to work with this audience. That's where it comes from. It comes from them.
Okay, good. So tell us about founding Brave Start. What was the gap in the market that you saw that no one else was feeling?
Um, I think the main thing is career coaching as an activity. So if who are my main competitors? I would say it's the career coaches out there, right? And I probably sound like I'm having a bit of a pop at career coaches, and I don't mean to, because we have a lot who work with us who
Right.
I think are brilliant. Okay. But a career coach operates in a one-on-one, typically a one-on-one scenario.
Mhm.
And the main thing that people really get benefit from in this sort of identity crisis, identity change, is the benefit of a group of other people around them, right? So whether it's things like stopping smoking, whether you want to lose weight, whether you've got an alcohol problem and you want to take a break, if you are struggling in maths and there's a group of you at school, the thing that moves the needle the most in helping people to make some form of transition is the inspiration, the engagement, the validation, the support they get from a group around them. And
Yeah.
if we consider that there are some really practical things, as far as career coaching is concerned and exploring a transition, what we find is people come to us and they'll say, hey, look, I've got 20, 30 years experience of doing this job that I know it was great, it was fine, but I know I just don't want to do it anymore.
Mhm.
That doesn't make them more informed about what they do want to do.
Yeah.
So, what they do want to do actually requires them to spend time exploring and understanding it, but not through reading a job description, because that's very one-dimensional, and humans don't learn a job because they've read a description about it. It's like you don't know if you like riding a bike because you've read a chapter about it,
Mhm.
right? You have to actually get up, you have to get on the bike, you have to ride around, and actually the more that you do it, the more you go, I quite like riding a bike.
Yeah.
So you may have an idea you want to work in a think tank. You may have an idea you want to be a career coach. You may have an idea that you want to do any of these sorts of things. Your first step is probably realistically to inform yourself more about what that's going to look like. So having a community of other people, and we've got over 1,000 members now, the 90% acceptance rate that our members have, because it is quite a small community, right? I mean, 1,000 people is, even if it was a business, it's still quite a small business.
Right.
If you contact somebody else and say, hi, I'm another member of Brave Starts, and I want to talk to you about your job. I can see you worked in asset management, and I'm thinking of moving and transitioning from wealth management to asset management or whatever. Can I have 10, 15 minutes of your time? That's a yes conversation. So they will get that conversation. And because it's not a job,
Mhm.
they can ask all sorts of questions. What's good about it? What's bad about it? Would someone with my background have a chance? Okay, if I don't have a chance at those organizations, would I have a chance anywhere else? Where do you think would be a starting point? What qualifications are really valued? What sort of reading should I do next? If I was to go to a networking event, which are the most respected in the industry? Right. Those sorts of conversations inform far more than a job description would. And you get that from community. And then you also get so much more. You get the smiles, you get the concern, you get the, oh, that happened to me. And if a doctor who's really qualified and senior is hearing that, a CEO from a business who's really qualified and senior has exactly the same issues and exactly the same anxieties, well, maybe now they don't feel quite so isolated and quite so alone. So the biggest thing I thought was missing was this kind of community element, and tied to that, the very practical element. So
Yeah.
I don't see many career coaches bringing employers to the table.
Yeah.
We had a whole day at a think tank last week. We had, on Monday we had 6 charities come and pitch to our members for the sorts of help they want, the proof projects that they've got available. If our members haven't got experience being a treasurer, or if they haven't got experience developing a website, do that for a charity that's really going somewhere. That's going to look bloody good on your CV. So all those sorts of practical things that I think a career coach misses, we're filling and plugging that gap. So that's, and we know we're doing really well, 5 out of 5 on all of our events. So again, it's just really rewarding. So
That's very.
That's the gap.
So you said the productivity crisis and the ageism crisis are the same. Can you walk us through the connection there?
Yeah, well, I mean, increasingly, the number of people who are those who can actually take up jobs and make a contribution to a business are going to be older and older and older, right? Now, that cohort of incredibly able, willing, passionate, committed, skilled, you name it, right? As people get older, they get more resilient. They have a switch in values. They've got better crystallized intelligence. People will, if I was to compare myself now to myself in my 20s, I'll be a better employee now. Right. So all of that productivity, all of the value that's gained
Mhm.
through time for an individual to then be screened out at the AI ATS first hurdle is a mistake of unbelievable proportion. If we look at one example, right, the UK has a large organisation. It's the largest recruiter in the whole of Europe, and it's called the National Health Service, the NHS. Right, the NHS has 100,000 vacancies it can't fill, right? Because it's trying to fill them from a recruitment model that relies on the fact that people get recruited when they're sort of out of school, out of university, 18, 19, 20, and that they stay there their entire lives. Well, they don't stay there their entire lives. They go and disappear to other countries that are probably going to give them a slightly better pay deal for starters. But what's more, people who work in the NHS are not always going to get the highest salaries, right? It's a public sector organisation. So who are the people that the NHS should be targeting? Oh, I don't know. People who are at a stage in their life who want to give back, who feel like they want to do something slightly more purposeful, whose emotional intelligence is much, much higher now than it probably was when they were in their 20s. So those skills about knowing that medicine is much more than about the drugs you might prescribe to somebody. It's about, you know, holding a patient's hand. We know that the factor that most predicts whether or not a doctor gets sued isn't competence, it's bedside manner. Right.
Mhm.
So all of the sorts of skills that we need in society to work in an organization like the NHS have no plan for. There is no recruitment strategy for people at the age of 40 plus. And yet at 40 plus, people can have a productive career for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And to not even have a strategic plan for how you recruit people into an organization when they're at the time when they're most suited to that organization is just bonkers. So, yeah,
So
100,000 vacancies we can't fill. That's just, as I say, the tip of the iceberg. You multiply and you extrapolate that out across all of the other businesses, routinely getting rid of or just not even recruiting the talent that's hiding in plain sight, and you look at our figures, productivity figures through the floor, you
mm,
know, it's an own goal.
yeah. So what I'm hearing there, Lucy, is that age is an asset. Now, for someone over 50 that is currently job hunting, looking for a job, what are the three things that you tell them to start doing immediately?
I guess the first thing is to put more focus and energy into the actions that you can control. So if I give an example of, what's your future career going to look like, you can put actions onto two sides, right? One will be the actions that you can control. It might be, what am I going to learn? Who am I going to talk to? Who do I reach out to? How do I contact them? What am I putting on my LinkedIn profile? Everything like that within your control. What's not in your control is whether or not a job that's on a jobs board, is it real? Is it live still? If I apply for that job, can I control the competition that's applying for it? Can I control the mindset of the person reading the applications? Can I control the algorithm that's going to screen people out? The answer is no. So if I put all time and energy into the stuff I can't control, you will end up being rejected, ghosted, living your worst life, right? If you put your time and energy in the stuff you can control, you'll be learning new things. You'll be doing proof projects for companies that you like the look of. You'll be forming networks and connections with people that will actually be useful to your future career. So it would be have a reflection on how you are spending your time. And if you are spending your time on things you can't control, change it. Move your energy into things you can control. So that's probably number one. Number two is form a job club, form a group of people around you who are going to help. So things in the same way that I say we have a community of people around because it's valuable to form those connections, I'd say the same to anyone. You don't need brave starts. You can go on Facebook, you can go online. Are there 4 or 5 other people that are in a similar position to me? Okay, let's all agree to meet over the next, say, call it 5, 6 months. And we'll meet once every 2 to 3 weeks and we'll
Mhm.
hold each other accountable to actions and we'll support each other. And the nice thing about that is if I'm saying to the rest of the group, these are the sorts of things I'm interested in, every time you leave, if that group are focused on what am I going to do to help my fellow peers in that group, anytime I read a job, anytime I have a conversation with somebody and I think that that would be great for Bola, or if I that would be great for James or whatever, you can ping things over and you can make your own introductions. So having a group, some form of social support around you, I think is really important. And then the last thing I'd say is probably related to point number one, which is I want a day a week minimum where you are doing something for the benefit of somebody else. So don't even earn money from it, but do something which is going to be good for your career capital. So maybe you are building a website, maybe you are building your AI agent, maybe you are running an event of some description, maybe you're building up a database of a network of contacts, something. But I want you to get outside of your own head and I want you to do a favor, do something pro bono for an organization that has a need for your skill or a need for your time. Because in this world of AI and me, and I just want to focus on myself, actually all of the evidence and data will say if you start helping other people, you will feel better about yourself. And humans, we don't survive because we look after me, myself, and I. We
Yeah.
survive because we support and help other people. So even at your darkest time of feeling out of a loop and feeling nobody wants you, you have a role to play and your community needs you, and you still can do something to support them. And I think it puts your mind in a much stronger place if you actually get out of your own head and care more about other people.
That's a good, Lucy. Thank you for sharing that. As we are wrapping it, you've spoken in the UK Parliament on this issue. What was the experience like, and what changed in the room after your speech?
So the experience itself was slightly frustrating because I would like to have more time.
Yeah.
And I'd like people to ask more questions. I think I just didn't have enough time to really put over the sort of the points I wanted to make. The other point is that the audience that you're talking to are not necessarily as engaged on the issues as you are. So when you do get a question, sometimes it's actually the wrong question. So you're spending time answering the wrong question and then trying to get people to say, but the question you should be asking is, around this, this, and this. So sometimes when people are just too far up the curve or too removed from the issue, the
Mhm.
conversation doesn't feel as productive as I'd like it to be. So I guess that's the first thing. The actual experience itself is, I mean, it's a bunch of other humans in front of you.
Mhm.
I've had more scary audiences. This is a situation where you're not really going to get heckled. It's not, I've had scarier audiences. So from that perspective, absolutely fine.
Oh,
I think if you know what you're talking about, actually, I'm very confident, and I've got good data behind what I say. So I could get scrutinized. I want to be scrutinized on it, right?
yeah.
Um, so from that perspective, and then I guess when you ask what's really changed off the back of it,
Yeah.
frustratingly not enough. So there's been an inquiry into older workers that's taken more than 2 years, and the government's response on it has been to do very little. And at best, that could be described as a missed opportunity. But at worst, it's, as I say, it's not a vote winner, right? To actually address some of the problems that we've got to talk that actually need addressing, you're gonna have to make some hard calls,
Mhm.
right? There aren't you probably can't pay out as many benefit payments. You probably do have to tell people to work for a little bit longer. You have to then give them some support and guidance around what that's going to look like. You have to educate employers and you probably have to incentivize them a bit to actually want to recruit older people, i.e., do some tax cuts around things like national insurance. The
Yeah.
government don't want to hear that because they don't want to hear that they're going to get less tax.
Yeah.
So, sadly, people vote for what they want, not what a country needs. So, you know, it hasn't had the outcome I would like.
So I'll say it's the same problem everywhere. Politicians somehow they are disconnected from what the people really need.
Yeah.
Finally, you see, if you could put one idea from age against the machine into the head of every hiring manager in Britain today, what would that idea be?
That they should ditch the use of a CV as the initial point of selection. Because with a longer life that we're all living, people are going to have to do a range of different jobs, right? Even even if they're really happy doing the job that they've always done, at some point AI, at some point some sort of change is going to mean that those individuals are going to have to consider a different skill set, acquiring they have got so much potential to do so many different jobs. And a CV is targeted at doing one thing and one thing only, which is to hire someone who's only ever been doing that very, very niche and very, very special job, which cuts out any kind of potential. And the data on this again is incredibly clear. A CV, it's a big meta-analysis in 2018, so this is publicly available data, has a predictive validity coefficient of 0.06. In other words, you could read a horoscope about somebody and probably do as good a job of selecting somebody.
Mm.
So it is a lazy approach to hiring, which doesn't even do the job of predicting who is actually going to be any good at doing that job. So yeah, if there was one thing I'd ask anyone to do, not just the UK, by the way, across the world,
Yeah.
get a better way of selecting people, right? I mean, at the very least, have how many organizations have thousands of employees in them, even if it's just one employee? You
Mhm.
say to those employees, how many volunteer days does your company give you a year? They might say, well, I get, 1, 2 days a year. That's 16 hours multiplied by all of those employees. And if you were to say to those employees, how do you feel about just chatting a bit about your job to people who might be interested in it? Right? So that the first barrier to almost any application is, have you talked to somebody who's actually done this job? Do you still want to do this after talking to that person? And this could all be AI now, right? You could all be interrogated by AI. How's your understanding of this job? And then what value are you going to bring to it? And put some friction in there. Make that job only advertised on your website. Don't let it get crawled by a jobs board, because then only the people interested in your company, good starting point, then only the people interested in your company are going to apply. And if there's some sort of slightly painful application form that's not a CV, so what do you understand about the problems that our customers face? How are you best placed to address those customers? you know, that talks to potential. It talks to people who care. It talks to people who've actually researched your organization. And all those markers of self-selection are going to do a much better job of predicting future job success than the lazy arse approach of just spamming out another CV request. So yeah, I want HR people to do some research, to look at alternative options that are going to do a better job and start leading, for crying out loud.
So good. You are telling them to rethink hiring. That's what I heard there. Thank you very
Mm.
much, see, for joining us on the show today. Is there any parting word that you want to leave for my audience, especially to maybe to those in that midlife, in terms of how they can continue to thrive in their career?
Um, all I'd say is that as you are approaching your midlife, yeah, you are now going to be the best employee you're ever going to be. And to the right organization, you're going to be an enormous and an incredible asset to them. But it is not the job of an organization to somehow spot your hidden talent when they don't know you're there, they don't know you exist. It is your job to knock on their door. It is your job to understand what value you're going to bring. It is your job to make that clear to them. Right? Nobody ever wins in this transition market because you are passively waiting for someone to find you. It doesn't work like that. If you are not prepared to put in the graft, if you are not prepared to understand your own value proposition and how you can bring value to another organization, then don't expect to get that far.
Okay, thank you for coming. Where can my listeners, where can they find you? Where can they get your book?
Well, book is available internationally. It's available on Amazon. I'm pretty sure you've got that over in the States. I think you can get it on Target as well. I don't know all the US retailers. I apologize. You can find us as an organization. We are a non-profit organization called Brave Starts, and you will find we've got lots of blog posts and things like that online. So that's literally www.bravestarts.com. And then you will also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Lucy Standing, and I have got quite a few letters after my name because I am a chartered psychologist and I want to be accountable to my members. So, yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.